Let's go.
Like the sound of stuff. Yeah. That's right.
And we smoked it all again.
Okay, you are listening to the Poptimist podcast. My name is Taylor Berryman, and today I have a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Wyatt Funderburk. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. So it's been a minute since we've seen each other. What have you been up to?
Mostly working on promoting the new Explorers Club album, the band that I play in currently. We recorded a record over the last year and a half here in Nashville, put it out on June 23rd, I believe, or 24th. And then we've been playing some shows and touring a little bit to promote that. Just home in between some touring right now. Going out to the West Coast in a couple weeks.
Nice. It's definitely a West Coast sounding record.
Yeah. It's a group that I joined a few years ago that I was a fan of beforehand. They're from Charleston, South Carolina originally, and just kind of met them through the internet and played a show with another band that I was playing in with them in New Jersey, kind of randomly, and then after that, the lead guy Jason Brewer got in touch with me about possibly moving to Nashville and asked if I was interested in playing some music. Not at the time thinking it would be the Explorers Club, but ended up moving to Nashville and getting in touch with me. And one of the other guys from the band moved here, so he decided that it would be probably a good idea to start the band up again. And a few of the old guys left the band. And so we still have one guy in Charleston, one guy in Atlanta, and three of us here in Nashville.
Okay, so like a good majority of the band is here. You play bass, you sing. Do you do any of the writing in this group?
A little bit, yeah. We've co-written a few songs on the new record, but it's mostly Jason writing the music, and we're all kind of just like collaborating in the studio when we record. Yeah,
so where did you guys record the album at? What studio?
We recorded at Real Recording, like REEL, which is sort of in like the Soho like the Wedgwood, Houston district. It's kind of an old industrial area of Nashville. It's a pretty new studio run by a couple guys, Mark and Eric, and they're fantastic. They do a lot of analog stuff in there. Tape machines and old keyboards and organs and gear and stuff. So it
definitely had that sound. Yeah,
so it was kind of perfect for what we were going for. Kind of a early 70s like Beach Boys kind of vibe.
That was very much the vibe I was getting from it. Cool. The harmonies were great too.
Thanks, man.
Like everything is well written and well composed. Every part like sings the guitar. I thought some of the guitar playing, there was like these really cool songs that had some of the cool springy kind of reverb on them, and I'm guessing it was like a Fender amp or something like that he was playing through.
Yeah, definitely. Use all like all the real instruments when we could do it. Had like a guy play bass harmonica on a track, and like
what is a bass harmonica? Like a lower range harmonica?
It's literally a bass harmonica. Like you can hear it on the song "Be Around," and it's just like a really low harmonica, and it was it's the sort of thing that was used in a lot of Beach Boys recordings in the late 60s. So
a weird psychedelic one-off instrument.
And, just stuff like that. We had like a few of the guys from Brian Wilson's band actually play some of the tracks out in LA and send them to us, and they're friends of the band. So that's really special. And then, we did all the tracking live, and as far as like drums, bass, guitar, keys, all live in the same room.
That's important.
All the vocals, the backing vocals, we all did around one mic. So
also
very minimal studio trickery going on there, and not a whole lot of manipulation possible when you're doing that. But it was a fun experience. Definitely new for me. I'm used to like kind of taking my time on each little thing and spending a long time getting each little take right. But we did it the old school way, and it was really cool. It was really fun to do. Yeah,
it's a totally different vibe. I personally, I've only recorded a few times like that, and it's never turned out well, just because growing up in Maine, it was like just bands that I played in growing up. We played live takes, and nobody knew. They got lost in the song, didn't know where anything was. When you do that, you have to go into the studio fucking prepared.
Yeah, well, we weren't that prepared. That's the problem. Like, I think the thing was we got like rough demos from Jason of most of the songs, just him playing on a guitar, and he kind of told us what he wanted from the song.
Okay.
And luckily, the guys are really talented. So like we would get in there and sort of play through the song, and Jason, kind of played the producer, and he would be telling us, here's what I feel for this section, and here's, back off on this, or do this, but for the most part, he just let us kind of play through it and see what felt right, not really knowing where everything was going to fit in after the fact. Like, we didn't really know what all the vocals were going to sound like, and all the overdubs and stuff, but we just tried to get a good groove and like something that felt right, that we could play live and felt like was true to all of us, together. So that's part of why the album's called Together. And we wanted it to feel like a band.
It definitely does. Yeah, I came across that way.
Thanks, man. The first 2 records that they did were done kind of just as studio projects with like a bunch of different musicians in and out. Yep. Never with everybody in the room at the same time. Mm-hmm. And we did everything on this record, with the exception of a few little overdubs here and there, with everybody in there together. Just, being able to bounce ideas back and forth and really talk about it amongst ourselves and decide what was best. And we all agree on most things anyway, so it was a lot of fun. And it was the best way to make this record, for sure. Like, we all had a lot of fun doing it. And it's something that in 20 years from now I'm going to feel really pumped about. I
think it's something that's going to continue to sound good as time goes on. So it's kind of timeless.
It's got a kind of a timeless sound, which is what I was also hoping for when we were doing it, and that's great, man. I love hearing that.
So you were playing bass? Were you playing like the Fender you have?
I played a Fender Precision bass.
A Mexi bass?
Mine is a Mexican Fender Precision from like 1995 or 94, which I've had since I was like in high school. But on this record, I was playing like a 60s Fender Precision.
Wow, awesome.
It actually belonged to the studio.
Flat wounds?
Flat wounds.
Oh, yeah.
And just, it sounded great. Just ran it direct.
Yep. And that's all you need sometimes, especially those old Fender basses.
Yeah, especially when you're running through a nice board. And, and they have nice preamps and stuff, so it sounded great. It's super, like, thuddy and dry. Mm-hmm. Which I'm normally recording like modern rock stuff, so like I'm using like round strings with like pretty with a pick and like pretty like high end like attack and everything. Yep. So this was like a little bit different, where it was more like just about feeling the bass and like hitting that kick drum. That was all I really did. I played keys on a couple things on the record, but like I said, we did it all live, so we're all just kind of in there just playing our parts and then the 2 guitarists, Jason and Mike, would come in and do like a couple overdubs here and there for like lead guitar. There was a couple, like synthesizer and organ parts that were overdubbed, and then like I said, like a few guys not in the band sent in a few tracks that we used, like a couple synthesizer tracks and some percussion and like the bass harmonica and stuff like that.
Well, it's a very textured record.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. There's so many great tones on there. And a lot of people today, I think it's almost like a response to the fact that everything sounds so homogenized on the radio, that there are these minds out there and a set of ears that are really trying to do something to where things are kind of weaved and textured. Luckily, I think you guys did a great job, but I think there are other bands and acts out there who aren't maybe as talented or as good as songwriters, and they use those sounds and the fact that they're in a certain kind of studio almost like as a crutch to sell the record, to get cred. But the songwriting is so solid on the album that I felt like the textures were just added on top of that, like as an embellishment. And anytime you do that, I think you kind of get something timeless whenever you have great songwriting and then those great textures. Sure. It was produced really well.
Cool. I'm glad you think so, man. It was like I said, like a group effort. Everybody like put in their A game. So
that's awesome.
We had good songs to start with.
Yeah.
We spent a good amount of time talking about what we wanted the songs to sound like, and we had like there was a guy who helped Jason with all the lyrics. We all helped on some of the lyrics. Like it was very much a group effort. So we put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think we came out with something good. We all love it. It's got a lot of good reviews so far. It's only been out a few weeks, but we've gotten a lot of good press from it. Like I said, we've been touring a little bit. We've had great response from people. Like we went up to New York, did a little East Coast jaunt a couple weeks ago, and that was awesome. Everybody was really pumped. And then we're going out to LA in a few weeks, and then going back on the East Coast in a couple months.
That's
just
awesome.
Keep grinding it out, see what happens. You know,
Yeah.
like I think all of us would be happy if this is as far as it goes.
Yeah.
But if not, if we can do more, then that's great.
Well, I hope more happens, especially with music like what you guys are doing. I think it's so important to kind of share it and spread it. The other thing that I like is that it's music with like a positive message. You know, everybody is so sad today. Like they're all. That's what I like about your music. Like all your work with Kurt Baker, all that stuff. You don't do what everybody else is doing, like mood-wise, attitude-wise with music. And same thing with Kurt. Like he doesn't write, you know, a bunch of like sad, mopey songs. All of his songs are very energetic and upbeat and have.
And that's who he is.
Yeah,
you met him. Like it's not a gimmick. Like that's who he is as a person. Like he's a very upbeat person. And while he's a serious guy and like, you know, cares about serious things and has, you know, true emotions, like his music reflects like who he is in his heart, and like that's what's important to me, man. Like, and the Explorers Club stuff, like, you know, we just try and capture the vibe of like love and like that like late 60s early 70s feel of like positivity and kind of like that West Coast vibe and hope. Yeah, man, for sure. That's always that. And there's some somberness in there, but it's like it's happy sounding songs about like some somber issues at times, or personal issues that, you know, like everybody deals with, and you know, it's uplifting music for me, for sure. Like when I play it, it feels great. You know, can't be sad listening or playing that stuff.
So what's down the pipeline next? Do you have anything planned with Kurt Baker? Do you have your solo stuff planned?
Yeah, all that stuff. I'm actually heading back up to Maine in a few weeks.
I'm jealous.
Last couple weeks of August, I'll be up there.
That's like the hottest time of year to go.
But
it's different. It'll be cold compared to.
I was up there a couple years ago. It was 3 years ago, right around now, and it was like 100 degrees. It was crazy.
I remember that year.
Summers ago,
Yeah, my sister had come up from Florida, and she was super pissed because she was like, "I came to escape this." And it was humid. I think it was around. Yeah, it was probably around.
It was July.
July.
Sure. It was like mid-July, I think, and I was like coming from here, and it was like 95 degrees, and I got up there, and it's like 100 degrees.
Yeah.
I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in that same year, it was like I was up there in February when there were 4 feet of snow.
Yeah.
In Nemo.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all fine. I like the seasons. But, yeah, since I haven't said that, I work with an artist who's originally from Maine, named Kurt Baker, which is kind of how I met you.
Yeah.
And Kurt now lives in Spain.
Yeah.
He's in Madrid, and he has a few groups over there. So he's really busy. But when he does come back to the States, I try and make my way up to Maine to work with him in some capacity. So we still write a lot, and the records that come out under the Kurt Baker moniker are basically like my productions. I recorded those albums and co-wrote all the songs. And then he has the Kurt Baker Combo, which is a Spanish band that is more garage rock type vibe. They're the ones that are currently touring in Spain and Italy and all that. And then he has a band called the Bulletproof Lovers, which is like a hard rock kind of, I don't know. Like
he plays guitar in that one, doesn't he?
No, that's the combo. He plays guitar in the combo. Okay. And Bulletproof Lovers, he just sings.
Oh, wow, okay.
And they are doing really well. I just finished mixing their new record, and that'll be out hopefully really soon. It's awesome. It's super hard rock, like late 70s, like Thin Lizzy vibes, AC/DC, like Ramones, you know, New York Dolls.
That's a little bit changing it up for him, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's like he doesn't write a lot of the music for that group. I think they kind of like collaborate on the music, and he like throws on the lyrics and melodies at the last minute. But it's really good. Like, you should check it out. The new record is called, I don't even know what it's called. Shot Through the Heart, I think is what it's called. Anyway, it's coming out hopefully soon, but they're doing really well. Either way,
Awesome. Good for him.
when I get up to Maine, I'm gonna just be writing with Kurt. We've written some songs for his new record, and then we're gonna be trying to kind of finish those. And I'm just gonna be hanging out. I'm gonna be working with a couple other artists up there, just briefly. But and then I've got a new solo record in the works, which has been taking me forever. I started recording it in late 2014, and then just kind of been working on other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. So I haven't had a lot of time to do it, and I love to be able to block out time for myself. But when I do, I end up getting more work, which is great. I love the work that I get, and I love people that want me to work with them, but I haven't had as much time to work on my stuff, so it's still kind of up in the air. Like I'm probably like a good few months away from finishing it right now, so we'll see. I'd love to have it out in the fall. The Explorers Club stuff really set me back a little bit, just because I didn't want to have my album come out anywhere near the Explorers Club record. I didn't want to have to think about like 2 different records
and promoting them and going on tour, playing shows. Yeah,
and I don't really know if I plan on doing any shows for my record. I'd like to, but I don't know if I'll have the time or want to put in the effort to practice and put a band together. It's always a lot of work. But it's more just a labor of love for me, like songs that are like my personal journal basically, and then just me like kind of feeling that out and messing around with whatever styles I'm feeling at the moment. And who knows, I've listened to a lot of different stuff, so it's going to have some interesting feels on there. It's a little different than my first record, which is a little more like straightforward power pop with some country and a little bit of electronic on there. But this new record is going to be, I think, a more like straightforward, like kind of like rock record. I say that now, but you know,
it's all bound to change.
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I'll start recording it and I'll be like, this is cool. I'll put a pedal steel in here.
Yeah,
you never know what I'm going to do. But the songs are there. The songs have been there for years, and I'm just like,
how many do you have right now for this new record?
I think it's 13. 13 songs. Yeah, I think I wrote like 20 or so, like in the last 3 years, and then from those I picked like, the ones I really liked the most. And then I recorded the drums up in Cincinnati with my friend Todd, who's been playing drums with me for like 15 years. We did that in November of 2014, so it's been a long time since I've actually started recording. So I'm excited to put it out, but whenever. And, I'm not bound to any label or any sort of schedule for my own stuff. It's just kind of, I don't want it to sit too long or it'll get stale, but it's going to happen soon.
It's almost as an artist, sometimes you feel like your songs have an expiration date. It's like you grow past that point and you're like, this is not really where I am anymore. I have something different to say.
It's true. And I struggle with that sometimes, but I look at it also like kind of like my tattoos. It's like they're representative of me at that time. Yeah, and they represent kind of just a snapshot in my life.
Yeah, it's true.
And a lot of the songs that I write are very in the moment, and even the next day I might wake up and not feel the same way I did. Whether it's a romantic song or like a song about like just being discontent with my life or something, and or I may have drank a lot one night and written a song that I'm just like, what is this? Like, what is this about? But that's it happens for a reason. These things happen, and whenever the creative bug hits you, you just got to go with that. And some of the best stuff I've written is just kind of like in the moment, like really like kind of a drastic kind of feeling in my mind, and I just wanted to put it down. And I'm speaking like lyrically and musically. Musically too. Like I'll write something that I'm like listening to something that inspires me, and I try and write something to emulate that. And maybe 6 months from then, I'm not feeling that style anymore. But I keep coming back to it.
You have to let it. Once the muse comes to you, you have to let her fully be there. I know. For me, some of my struggles with songwriting sometimes. And tell me if this is something that sounds familiar to you. You'll start writing something, or you'll write something 2/3, and if I don't do most of whatever I'm trying to do right then, I can't go back to it. It's like that muse for that particular thing struck at that moment, and it's just like I need to have the lyrics completely written almost in one sitting, or at least a rough draft of them, change a word here, change a word there,
for sure,
in order for something to come to fruition. Because if if that feeling escapes you, whether it's about, I don't know, whether it's about romance, whether it's about having a bad day, kind of what you were talking about, just reflecting on life.
Yeah.
Like that's a thought, that's a feeling that you're having right at that moment, and you have to capture it right at that moment.
Yeah, it's hard. When I'm writing, when I'm going back through and editing my songs for my record, and I'm trying to like finalize my lyrics, I'm more or less just proofreading and trying to decide like, maybe I used this word too many times. I'll try something else. You know, I'm not necessarily trying to recapture the feeling. But it's still difficult, and it's still kind of, I feel like I'm still cheating a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I've written these songs like from a certain point of view and a certain time, and then I am 2 or 3 years later, like editing it and like changing it to what I feel like is best.
And you're a different person from the time that you wrote it. Yeah.
But you know, at this point I try and look at it as objectively as possible, and like say like, I said, you know, like I hate using the word thing. Like if I see the word thing in my song, I'll take it out because like it's just such a dumb word. And like stuff like that. Like I have little rules that I go back and I'm like, I said you too many times, or I said this too many times, or like, you know, stuff that's not as descriptive, that just aren't interesting words. Like I'll try and like go back and rewrite a line just to fit that rule. But you know, like I go back to like what, you know, a couple different songwriters that I really adore say, like Dan Wilson from Semisonic, and also like who writes for a lot of big names now. I wrote like a bunch of Adele's hits and stuff.
Really?
He's an incredible writer behind the scenes. He doesn't, you know, get a lot of credit or publicity, but
hopefully his bank account reflects it.
Oh, he's definitely doing all right. Yeah. I definitely love his advice, and he always posts like interesting tidbits about songwriting and advice on songwriting. And one of the things he said was like one finished song is better than 100 unfinished ideas.
That's very true.
And like I totally try and remember that when I'm writing, and it's like, you know, like you said, like you'll write like a bit of a song, or like you'll write a piece of something, and you just have to like push yourself to finish it.
Yeah.
Because like you have all these little ideas and bits laying around, and they're not good for anything unless you finish them.
Yeah.
And again, another good quote that I have from Benny Anderson from ABBA, another one of my favorite groups.
Oh yeah.
He said, you know, like he and Bjorn would treat it like a job. They'd get up in the morning and spend 8 hours just at the piano writing.
I love hearing shit like that so much.
Dude, it's fantastic. Whether they wanted to write or not, they treated it like a job. They would get up, go to the piano, sit there for 8 hours and write. Whether they were feeling it, whether they had
it's just like clocking in and clocking out at a job.
It was, but they made sure, because they said, look, you know, we may not be feeling it when we wake up, we may not have the inspiration, but like if you sit outside the cave long enough, the dragon will come out.
That's a great quote.
And I love that, because that's what I
you got to slay the dragon.
It's like you can't just wait for your ship to come in, man. You got to build your own, man. You got to sit there and work and put the time in. And if you don't get it today, then you'll maybe get it tomorrow. But if you don't put in the work and sit there and wait for it to happen, you won't be there at the right time. You won't be ready for it. And
that's the struggle of being an artist.
Yeah.
Is because we're very creatively minded. I know for me, I have a pretty big background in business, have day jobs, stuff like that, and it taught me a lot of organization, kind of getting my shit together. But it's like trying to have those two sides, those two polar opposite sides coexist at the same time to create something.
Yeah.
Which is not easy to do. I always like, do you listen to Joe Rogan at all? Mm-hmm. He had a guy on his podcast, Stephen Pressfield. He's a writer. He wrote the book War of Art. And he just talks about being an artist and all this shit about basically what you were saying. You got to show up. You got to do it, because it's just not going to happen. Like, there's not going to be a divine moment of inspiration. Yeah. You have to harness that divine moment of inspiration every time you sit down to try and do something. You have to be goal-oriented. Yeah. Which is hard. No, because sometimes you're just going to create shit or stuff you don't like. At least that's how I feel sometimes. I sit down and I do something and I listen back to it, I'm like, this is complete garbage. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't just happen. I mean, I guess it can just happen. It probably just happens for some people, but it doesn't just happen for me. Like, there's two parts of it. There's the part where you're completely like free in your mind and you're like feeling like an emotion so overwhelmingly powerful or something that you have to express it through music. You have to get it out.
And there's also just like being diligent and working hard and treating it like a job, giving it the respect that it deserves, like the craft. Because, you know, without both things, and it's like all these, like, you know, even like pop stars, man, like they all work their asses off.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
like, you don't think they wake up and spend 10, 12, you don't think Kanye West spends 12 hours a day working on something?
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah,
like,
he does.
That's why these guys are so successful. Like,
Yeah.
They're not
They're crazy.
just waking up in the morning, laying in bed all day, waiting for like something to happen. Like they're like
Agreed. They're successful for a reason.
Right, whether you like them or not, whether you like what they do or not, like they've got that part figured out. They've got the work part figured out. They all have a great work ethic, and that's what I admire about like, you know, pop stars and rock stars and stuff that like tour for 9 months straight and, you know, bust their asses, because it's not fun all the time, man. It's like, it's a job no matter what you say. You know, it's a fun job, but it's still a job, and you got to treat it like one. And, you know, it's like there's, you know, 99% of musicians aren't motivated to actually put the work in to work on their craft, whatever it is, like playing an instrument or being in a band or songwriting or singing or whatever it is. Like, I mean, it takes a lot of work, and some people are just like fortunate to be incredibly talented naturally, like Brian Wilson or you know Paul McCartney or whatever, like guys that don't need to put much work in. They're just amazing. But, you know, if you want longevity, if you want like to make a life out of it, you got to work your ass off. And I struggle with that every day. I mean, I'm juggling 5 or 6 different things all the time. And, you know, one day I'd like to like maybe focus on less things at once, but right now it's working out okay. So I'll just keep doing that. But, you know, if you're not like waking up with a purpose and like having at least 2 or 3 things on your plate that you know you want to get done, then you're not going to get anything done ever. Whether it's writing good songs, making a record, you know, producing, going on tour, playing an instrument. You just have to be dedicated.
You have to have something. Yeah, like every morning when I wake up, I have a to-do list, and I have everything scheduled on my calendar, stuff I know I need to get done. Like I put it in there so it pops up on my phone. It's like, okay, practice bass, apply to jobs, get my resume out there, go grocery shopping, just like basic life things. And I think it's so important. And one of my struggles, I feel like here in Nashville, since I've been here for almost a year now. And one of my struggles is meeting with people, and 95% of the people that you encounter, they don't have the mentality that you or I have when it comes to something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Everybody has their own philosophy. And it's, you know, what we're talking about here is just like one recipe for, you know, like being successful. And like, I'm by no means like, you know, making a living like just doing music. You know, so I have several avenues that I'm, you know, making money at, but like, I still like consider myself successful. I mean, like, just because like I'm happy with like where I am musically. Like I get to play with.
That's the dream right there.
I get to play with fantastic artists that and I've worked with people, I've written with people, I've done things that I never thought I would get to do already, and I still have like goals that are like, you know, millions of miles above all that stuff. But, you know, I'm very content with where I am now. I mean, I'm 35, been playing music, you know, like for 20 years about, you know, and I'm going to be playing music for another 40 years easily, you know. Like, I figure I've got a lot of time to like make stuff happen. I'm not trying to be a pop star. I know I'm not getting any prettier. So it's like I'm just, you know, enjoying what I can while I can. And
it sounds like you're following the muse.
Exactly.
And kind of where she's guiding you to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, I didn't think 10 years ago I was going to be like producing records or, you know, mixing records for artists. I never thought I'd be doing that. That stuff bored me. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to play music. Go play on stage. I want to be a rock star. You know, even, you know, I just, you never know. Like 10 years from now, I might be doing something totally different. But, you know, I know like I've worked, you know, really hard on my craft in a few different areas, and I'm totally ready for whatever, you know, whatever's next. It's all good, man. Anything in the music industry that I can get my hands on, I'm loving it. You know, I might end up writing with some country artists. I might end up, you know, doing something totally new. Who knows? I don't know. I'm open to anything.
And I think that's important, especially. I think the goal really is to gain as much experience as possible, and it's not necessarily for like your resume, like life experience. Everything that I do, I want to take away something from it in my soul. I want it to be a part of me. I want it to help me grow further than what I did before. And it can be hard sometimes. It's hard to be a creative-minded musician, artist. It at least sounds like you also have some business sense, which is important to have.
Yeah, not a whole lot, but yeah, a little bit. And music, doesn't lend itself well to like a business side of it, or being a musician rather. I always hated the music business, but after becoming an engineer, and getting into that, I kind of had to develop a little bit of an idea of how I wanted to run my own business, because that's what it is. I mean, I'm just I'm having to figure out how much my time is worth and all that stuff. And it's really difficult, and it's something I wasn't at all prepared to do. Like I said, didn't expect it, but it's all good, And I at the end of the day, my other piece of philosophy that I'll drop on you is just that, if I don't feel like I'm gonna be really pumped about what I'm doing in 20 years, if I don't look back at everything I did in 2015 or 2016 now, that in 2035 or whatever, if I look back on it and I'm not stoked on it, then it wasn't worth doing in the first place.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to keep that in mind whenever I take work, and if it's something that I really care about and that I feel like I'm gonna love, then I'll do it. But other than that, I'm not gonna take work just because it's work. It's just not worth it for me anymore. At this point, I've done some regrettable projects that were, at the time felt like a good idea because of the money, but I don't ever want to listen to them again, or I don't really care about them now. And it's I'd rather be waiting tables than.
Was it just a difficult artist working with?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to say who. No,
I understand.
But I've worked with a couple of really difficult artists, some multiple times. Mostly just because I was trying to get my feet wet and just trying to take whatever work I could, and it's at the end of the day, it's fine. I'm not angry about it or anything, but it's you just want to build a resume that you can be really proud of no matter what. And if somebody sees my name on something that I'm not proud of, or that I feel oh man, I don't want anybody to hear that's a bummer.
It's a dirty feeling.
And everybody has to start somewhere, but at the same time, it's I want everything I do to be good and to be indicative of all the work I put in, and what I what my vision is for the music. But it's fine. Everything that I've done lately has been awesome. I've been really happy about it. Musicians are kind of hard to work with in a business standpoint. Like I said, it's just different. Musicians aren't very good at organizing their time and money and all that stuff. So that's a struggle as an independent engineer. I'm working with musicians, so I'm not necessarily working with people who have big bankrolls and stuff. I'm working with independent artists and bands. So I'm kind of at the mercy of okay, we can't afford that. We're gonna have to pay you, next week, or we're gonna have to do this and that. And that's just something that I've learned to deal with. Not a big deal, but something that you have to think about.
That's just, I feel especially kind of in the indie world, is something. If somebody's running their own, it makes me think of the jobs I had in the past where you're doing sales and you have to run your own book of business.
Yep.
And the one thing that I've struggled with in addition to that is I would definitely say I'm very business minded when it comes to a lot, but when I go to be creative, I just want to be creative.
Right.
But when it comes to being business minded, it's a struggle because you always want to do the right thing. And you always want to make sure everyone's getting paid, all that.
Yeah.
But there's this other side where it's just oh shit, I'm not going to be able to afford that, or I'm not going to be able to record that, or I'm not going to be able to do that the way I thought I was going to be able to. And you feel you have to sacrifice your vision and stuff like that, which is it takes a lot to be an indie artist nowadays. It's never been easier in a way,
right?
But it's also more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, there's more competition now for sure. I mean, there's billions of bands out there now. It's ridiculous. I mean, so it's anybody can start a band and record a record, so that's nice. I mean, it's think about all the artists in the 60s and 70s that were insanely talented that never had the funds to record a record. Now everybody can record a record, so it's really awesome in that stance. But it is like more competitive than ever, and it's hard for a lot of like studios now to like stay in business because of that, because anybody can record a record on GarageBand, and and some people are getting to the point where it's like the technology is so good that like there's not a need for the big studios anymore. Especially for like electronic music and stuff like that. It's like, man, it's like you do
dudes
everything.
Recording it in their apartment.
Everybody does it on their laptop now. I mean, like the biggest records that you hear on the radio now are all done on like somebody's laptop in somebody's house. So it's crazy. I mean, like, and that's it's how I got into it. But it's like at the same time, like I'm trying to be one of the guys that I'm asking people to give me money so that I can help them make a better record. So it's tough. Because like some of the artists I work with are like good at it themselves. So it's like I just I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve a little bit. Always working on getting better. But yeah, I mostly like I don't know if I mentioned it, but I mostly mix artists now. Like I produce bands and stuff, but I find that like in order to work from home, like in a lot of different with a lot of different artists, it's been easier for me to just mix records for bands after they've tracked it. So that's been where I've been spending most of my time and getting most of my work. But I'm still looking. I think like right now, at least, the goal is to work more in a hands-on producer capacity from start to finish of the record. So I'm looking for more work doing that, but I'm happy with mixing. It's fun and pays well, and I'm able to have some creative freedom. People come to me not just because they want a mix engineer, but because they want like my touch on it, and then like maybe they want me to add some things to it. So that's cool. It's always nice. I just finished a record. I finished it a while back, but it's coming out like next week for a band from Nashville called Sad Baxter.
That's the name of the band?
Yeah, they're called Sad Baxter, and their album is called Weirdy. It comes out next week, I think. Yes, comes out next week. So I produced that start to finish, tracked the whole album, mixed it.
Were you guys in a studio or?
Yeah, so we recorded the drums in a home studio essentially. We rented, and then I just came and ran the session, and then we took everything else to my studio, which is just a project studio in my home. And we did all the rest of the tracking there. I did all the mixing. The guys at Real Recording, where Explorers Club recorded, did the mastering for this record. So, but it was, basically, what I want to do is do full production. But that'll be out next week. That'll be good. July 24th, I think. So, yeah, check that out. It's like a cool female-fronted, grungy, kind of like poppy rock band, heavy guitars, like good kind of like harmonies and melodies, and it's really good, really fun, and really simple, good songs.
So when you step into the studio with an artist like them, what are some of your goals? What do you see your role as a producer for that project as?
It's always different. I mean, like for this project that I did, it was more of a collaborator, not as much as a overseer or a director. Like I wasn't like handling any sort of finances, and I wasn't really like helping mold the songs at all. But I was definitely like collaborating on like the sounds we had and the style of kind of like the way the mix played out and the way the songs were presented. And it was a more technical standpoint for this record. At times a producer will like be also like shaping the songs from pre-production and maybe like helping finish the lyrics and all that, and even like working on the financial side of it, like helping fund the record. And it just depends. Like it's different for every project. For this one, I just wanted to put what I saw on stage from this band like on a record and make it sound as close to that as possible. So I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot of difference for me, like from seeing them live and what I wanted it to sound like on the record, because I didn't want to have like a ton of overdubs. It's just a 3-piece band, so I mean, like there's no guitar solos, there's no like like 3-part harmonies. It's very like much just like there's a guy playing drums, there's a girl playing bass, there's a girl playing guitar and singing, and that's what the record is.
That's
and
awesome.
that's pretty much it. There's like a little bit of extra guitar here and there, but it's like very much like just capturing that trio element.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about them when I saw them live, and I just felt like that's the best way to put it on record. And I know some bands like love like making their records like gigantic and adding like a million things, but like I always appreciate it when like a band can play just like they do on the record, and it sounds fantastic just with 3 people or whatever. It's like I don't need all the bells and whistles all the time. If the songs are good and the performance is good, then I'm just pumped to have 3 pieces. It's great. So I just really wanted to keep it simple on this, and it was like one of the more simple records I've ever done. So, but I mean, I've worked on like when I do Kurt's records, like it's a little more involved. Like there's a few more pieces.
You're kind of like a co-pilot for that.
Yeah. So we're working on the songs from scratch usually. Sometimes he'll have songs that he brings in. Sometimes I'll have songs. Like for that, we work from scratch most of the time and like do demos, and then the demos morph into the finished versions. So it's a much longer like kind of drawn out process with him. So it just depends on the project. It's always different. I feel like what makes a good producer is like being able to like take what the band is doing and not really like change it as much, but like just present it, in a way to the audience, like on a digital format, if it were, So it's basically just saying like, here's what the band sounds like live. If you like that, then let's try and figure out a way to make that sound, palpable for, MP3s.
Capture their essence.
Yeah, if you will.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's basically what I want to do. And if it's like a studio project or a solo artist, then it's way different because you're not bound by anything. But I always like when a band sounds like they do live on the record, and vice versa. Like I don't want to go see a band live and then it's like, wait,
then
what happened?
They eat shit live. They can't play any of their own songs.
Like, and I feel like I want to see a band live before I start working with them. Like I think that's important. Like not just because it's good for them, like for their career, but it's good for the chemistry in the studio, and like you know that they know the songs and they're really good at playing them. So it's going to be a good record.
So what other bands or artists are you a fan of here in Nashville?
In Nashville, jeez, man. A lot. I mean, I love this band, the Lees of Memory, which is kind of rose from the ashes of this band Superdrag that was really popular in the 90s. They're from Knoxville originally. Mm-hmm. They just put out a new record under the Lees of Memory name. They're fantastic. It's sort of like it's like 90s like alternative pop rock mixed with like some shoegaze and a little bit of like country elements too. It's fantastic. Just amazing songwriting and playing and singing, and just one of my favorite artists. John Davis is the front man. He's like just an awesome dude. He's actually sang on the Explorers Club record too. And I love Sad Baxter, the artist that I produced. They're awesome. They're always fun to watch live. There's, I don't know, man. I feel like if I start saying people, I'm going to leave somebody out. But I don't know, man. I love this artist that I also play with, but I have nothing to do with his sound. It's a guy named Ruben Badez, and I play bass with him. But he's just an amazing songwriter and singer, and I should definitely plug him.
Did you play? I think I might have seen you play with him at the Mercy Lounge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys did. You did like a Tom Petty cover,
that's right.
Bruce Springsteen song, and then one original.
Yeah, so that's Ruben Badez.
Yeah, he's very good.
He's a great singer-songwriter, kind of old school, like lots of like I would say like Neil Young influence, Tom Petty influence, you know, that kind of thing, George Harrison.
Oh yeah.
So I love him, and he was a friend, and I obviously I play with him, but like I said, like I have nothing to do with his sound. Like I just fill in and do my thing. But I don't know, man. I love a lot of different people around here. I'm friends with most of them, so it's kind of hard to say. There's just so many good. There's a ton of good rock bands in Nashville now.
There are.
And there have been for a while, but like now especially, and I think I go to more shows now, so like I see a lot more bands, but there's just a ton of bands now, and they're all like doing their thing, and there's a lot of variety. I don't really get into as much country or anything else really, like mostly rock and pop. So, but I really enjoy like going to shows now. There's like I said, like I know a lot of these bands, and I'm really enjoying like the way the scene is playing out right now here in town. And there's every night there's something going on.
There's
always something going on.
Whether it's like there's always local artists playing here.
Yeah.
And there's always like big acts coming through.
Yeah.
A couple of months ago, Charles Bradley came here.
Oh yeah, I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah, it was a good show.
My friends opened up for him.
Thelma and the Sleaze.
So.
They're probably my favorite band in Nashville. They're
awesome.
They're tough as fucking nails.
Yeah, man.
They can play. They're heavy as shit.
Their drummer is one of my really good friends.
Yeah.
Chase. She used to work with me.
Yeah.
And she's a sweet girl. They're so funny though. They get on stage and they're so like badass and
they're just sneering.
Yeah,
like,
man. But they're like the sweetest
Yeah.
people. They're not at all like. I mean, they're badasses, but they're just so sweet.
Yeah.
Like, I love them.
I was very impressed when I saw them.
I wish I could have seen them, man. I was busy. I had a previous engagement, but yeah, that would have been awesome to see. They did a few gigs with him. They did a little tour with him, so that's cool.
They were really good. And the singer, she was wearing like this jumpsuit.
Yeah,
She was like, this is the first time wearing this jumpsuit. I had it made. It reminded me of Silk Spectre from Watchmen.
yeah.
And I just thought that was so badass.
Yeah, I think I saw her in that. That's LG.
They're a great band. They're
They are
one of my
great.
favorites here in Nashville. Another band I really like is Justin and the Cosmics.
I don't know them.
They're really fucking good.
Cool.
They're they have this one song that I heard. I can't even remember how I found them, but they had this one song called "Rippin' the Heart." It was just super impressive. Like during the bridge, there's this part that just reminds me of like this Otis Redding kind of melody. There's this guy who produced it. His name Adam Landry. He's from Maine originally.
Cool.
So I just thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, I'll have to send you a link to them, man. They're
Dude, yeah,
great.
do it. Always.
They're really good.
I'm always down. I always want to hear like good Nashville bands.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's like I can hardly keep up with it. There's so many people moving here right now.
Yeah.
That a lot of them are playing music. So it's like, it's always I see a new band like once a month at least, like when I'm going out to shows. So it's just hard to keep up with. But it's been like, I think it's the best time. I've been in Nashville for 17 years, and I think like right now is like the best rock and pop scene that I've ever seen in town. It's crazy. It's like it's exploding.
Do you think it's just because there's so many
Just
like
so
young
many
people moving
Yeah,
here?
there's just so many young people. It's becoming like a creative hub. Like there's so many people that want to move here to make music. And
Yeah.
to be artists in some way. So and then just it's an attractive city right now for young people. Like people enjoy being here, and there's like a good food scene and music scene and
There's
arts,
jobs.
culture, and there's jobs. And I think that's just attractive to young people and creative people. So that's good for the music scene, man. Like the more bands, the better. We have, there's like 25 venues for like independent music and stuff. There's like a lot of places to play that are like have shows every night. So there's never a shortage of good music to go see. Like pretty much, if I'm not working at night, then I'm going to see a show. Pretty much almost every night. Like it's crazy. I'm going to see. I'm actually going to see a show tonight at Exit Inn. Going to see Diggable Planets, the hip hop group from the '90s.
I've never heard of them before.
They're so good. One of my favorite groups, but just kind of a random.
So have you gotten to work on any hip hop stuff yet, or is that kind of on your bucket list?
I have, but not recently. I mixed a couple things for people, and 4 or 5 projects like in the past 15 years.
Yeah.
Working here and there. Like I guess I've only been like really like engineering for about 10 years. I guess like 10 years ago or 11 years ago was when I first started, and since then I've done like maybe 4 rap projects. So like nothing in the past couple of years. But I'd love to do some hip hop, and I just don't really. I'm not really known for that, so I think people don't really look to me for that. I have to kind of search out people and be like more on the hunt for it. But the people that search me out or the people that ask me for work are usually rock musicians. So mostly like punk and rock and stuff is what I'm getting. But man, I would love to do a hip hop record with somebody.
Have you ever listened to Spose before? Do you know Spose?
Yeah.
He's really fucking good.
From Maine, right?
For Maine.
Right,
I like him a
right.
lot.
Yeah, totally. Man, yeah, there's a lot of good artists in Maine, too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
There is.
One of my favorite artists from Maine is Zach Jones. Do you ever heard of him?
I think I have. Yeah, Zach Jones he has like a backing band, right?
I don't know if he doesn't currently, but he played in a bunch of groups in Maine. Like he was in As Fast As.
Did Jonathan Wyman produce his record?
One of his records at least. But he lives in LA now. But he's been like putting out records for a while under different bands. But he's got like 4 or 5 solo records. I think 5 solo records now. He puts out one like every year. Man, his last couple records have just been fantastic. I just love that guy. He put out an album in 2013 called The Days. And it is.
I think that's the one that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, man, it is incredible. It's one of my favorite records to listen to, even now. Like I listen to it all the time, at least once a week. He's incredible. I'm hopefully going to see him in a couple weeks when I go out to LA and go get to see him and hang with him. I haven't seen him in a couple of years since he moved out to LA. But yeah, man, great artist. And yeah, the Maine, Portland area in Maine has a ton of artists for as small as that area is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like 60,000 people in Portland.
Yep.
But there's like 50 bands.
It's like a resurgence is kind of happening there. And I mean, when I was growing up, Portland, it wasn't considered like a hip city like that. Like, so the way that I know Kurt, I don't know if he remembers me at all. Right. I mean, I've emailed him a few times, but I don't know if he's made the correlation that we used to play shows together back when he was in The Leftovers.
Yeah.
So we like how I got to know him or got to know about his music and all that was when I was like 13, 14, just growing up playing in punk bands at skate parks.
Right.
And I always remember him like doing like splits on stage and like jumping in the air and doing a bunch of shit like that. But yeah, so you would end up going to play just like shows at Grange Halls and stuff like that. There wasn't really like a scene in Portland. There was places like the Big Easy.
Yeah.
But there wasn't.
Is closed now.
Yeah, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it closed a couple of years ago.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, man. Some shit happened.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. Anyway, not to get off track.
What happened?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
Apparently, like some shit happened, like the owners and stuff. Like
some sketchy shit.
They weren't able to pay their bills or whatever.
Oh, that's too bad.
I don't know if it was necessarily sketchy, but it wasn't something that people really wanted to talk about. Most of the other places I've been there, are still open. So
there's Empire.
Yeah,
which
Empire's
is a
still doing
pretty
it.
nice
They're
place.
New ownership now. It's now a Chinese restaurant.
What is it now?
It's still Empire, but it's now like like the bottom floor is like a Chinese restaurant, but the upstairs is still the same.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it still is a Chinese restaurant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a weird. It's just it's the same layout, but it's new ownership. It's like they're not. Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm gonna take this call really quick.
Okay, I'll pause this real quick.
Hey.
Okay, and we're back.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about Portland.
Oh, we were just talking about Portland.
And all the great venues.
But yeah. I mean, I like I said, I go there a good bit just to work with Kurt and some other artists. My buddy Chris Rogers, who plays with Kurt, mixed his last record, and I'm mixing his new record. He's a really, really talented piano player and songwriter and singer. And he plays with a few groups around town. He's a working musician, one of those rare working musicians in Portland, Maine. Those are rare. He plays in a group called Vinyl Tap, which is like a cover band. They play down at like the Portland Lobster Company and Gritty's, and they like.
Gritty's is a great place.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, man, I've spent so much time down in the Old Port. Yeah. But anyway, we get sidetracked, but. Yeah, love Portland. I'm excited to go back up. Hopefully it won't be too hot, but either way I'll be pumped. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be better than here. I'm gonna eat some seafood and hopefully see some good music and make some music and all that stuff.
Yeah. I honestly I miss the Maine summers for sure.
Yeah, although the winters are pretty harsh.
The winters are brutal.
Yeah, so if I could just figure out some way to spend the summers and like early fall up there, and then maybe come down here in like November. That'd be the dream. Yeah. But yeah, maybe one day.
So, how did you get to know Kurt Baker? How did that happen?
He actually like got in touch with me maybe 10 years ago because he was a fan of my old band, Second Saturday. I don't know. I think he found us online somehow, and then he wrote me on MySpace at the time was the thing. He wrote me in, just like introduced himself, and I was like, "Who is this weird kid?" Like, you know, he was like 18 or something at the time, and I was like, listened to like some of the Leftovers music, and I wasn't super into it. It was a little more like raw, and I was like, "Yeah, it's fine, you know, whatever." It's some weird kid with an afro.
Yeah.
And as the years went by, like he kind of kept in touch with me a little bit, and like he actually like about like 9 years ago or so, like he sent me a message on Facebook. To asking me to check out the new Leftovers record that had come out, and I listened to it and I loved it, and I was like, wow, this is actually really good. It like really got me excited, and I was like, yeah, if you guys ever come through Nashville, let me know. Like, I'd love to set you up with a show. And I was playing with a couple bands at the time. So he came through about a year later, and we ended up booking a show with a band I was playing with, and the Leftovers in Nashville. And then after the show, like, they came over to our place, and we like listened to music and like talked about music. We were up all night, and then the next day, like, we wrote a couple songs together. Just kind of like, he was like, "Hey, you want to try writing some songs?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I hadn't really had much success in writing with other people yet, and just like in the fact that, you know, I was found that I was like a little overbearing, or maybe just didn't agree with, you know, what other people were doing, and wasn't really finding a way to click with anybody as far as like a collaborator. But we wrote 2 songs in like half an hour, finished ideas that he had, and both those songs ended up on records and stuff. But like, it was just kind of an easy collaboration, and we hit it off really well, and we kept in touch. Over the next year or so, we wrote a couple more songs, and then in 2010, you know, like a year and a half later, or like 2 years later, like, we started talking about, it was the Leftovers broke up, so we started talking about like working together on his solo stuff, and maybe him doing a solo record with me. So it was kind of a slow process. Like, we started writing together, and at the time we weren't you know, like, doing any writing over the internet. We were literally traveling back and forth to Maine and Nashville, and like meeting up and writing together physically. And we made a few trips back and forth, and eventually had enough songs to put out a record. So we put out his first record in 2012, and then kind of just...
I think that was like one of the first things that I had heard from him.
Yeah.
I knew the Leftovers, but I didn't know that he was in the Leftovers at the time.
Sure.
It didn't correlate.
Yeah. So Brand New Beat was like the first real full-length record that we did. And I'd started playing with him and his band at that point for like the tours. Like, they did like, they had another guy that played for some of the local shows, but like whenever he would tour, I would go on tour with him. And like when we'd go to Europe and stuff, I always went on those trips, and you know, we made a couple full-length records, and then after we made the first record, we were kind of touring a lot and in Europe, and that was when he moved over to Europe. And then we made the second record while he was in Europe. Like, he was doing a lot of the recording over there, and we were doing some of the recording over here, and we met up near the end and finished it. And now it's, you know, just kind of like once or twice a year getting together when he's in the States and writing songs, and hopefully recording a new record, but I don't really know when that's going to happen because he's not here much. But we may end up doing the whole thing, you know, remotely. But it's still very much a collaboration. The first record was more, you know, like an explosion of like creativity as collaborators, and then since then it's just been like, you know, just easy. You know, we've been really fortunate to have each other to kind of finish songs and write songs together with, and it's been a lot of fun. Like I said, I've never really found anybody else that I can collaborate with. It's been like pretty much just Kurt. Like, I've written songs with other people, like here and there, like one song, like one-off things, but I've never been able to write. I mean, we've written 40 at least 40 songs.
It sounds like you
together.
guys have a partnership where you kind of understand how each other works and kind of plays to each other's strengths and weaknesses.
And we respect each other's ideas.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. We want the same thing. We listen to the same type of music. We love the same type of things, the melodies that we like and all that. So whenever we do have ideas, we're not afraid to like shut each other down. You know, it's like if something's not working, then we'll be very clear about it. But it's never been like a ego thing. It's been very much about like just getting the song right and figuring out what works best. And we usually like can bust out a song in like an hour or so, and then like come back to it and like fine tune it. But you know, we get together and write. When we do treat it like a job, we'll wake up in the morning, get some coffee going, like sit down, pen and paper, a couple guitars, and just like sit there and work on something. Whether it's from scratch or from an idea, like we'll just sit there and like play until something happens. So I'm looking forward to doing that with him again. Like we've written a bunch of new songs, but you know, we'll go back over those songs and see what we like and see what we don't like, and then kind of revise them and maybe add more and just keep working until we have a new group of songs that we feel confident about to make a new record. And then I feel like what will end up happening is we'll probably end up doing a lot of the basic tracking over here, whether he's here or not. I'll do the tracking, and then he'll do like vocals and bass back in Madrid. Which is totally fine, you know, as long as we're together for the writing. Yeah. But that's probably what will end up happening, just because it's hard to get together. Like I feel like he'll probably come back, you know, probably one more time this year after August, but maybe not. So we'd like to get a record done this year, though.
I've always loved that song that you guys did together, City Lights.
Oh yeah,
dude, that's a fucking incredible song. Thanks, that's man. How I first. That's how I first heard about you.
Because that wasn't even on a record. That was like a B-side. We got like we were writing songs here in Nashville for the first record. Yeah. And we were kind of just playing around and like just letting the booze take us wherever. We were like having some drinks one night in my studio and like just started thinking about like this like disco type song. Yeah. You know, and like started talking about like an idea for it. And it was just sort of like was just like me sitting there on the keyboard like playing around with some chords.
It reminds me of like ABBA and Supertramp and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were going for. And it was never really intended to be on a record, and it came out on like a B-sides record that we put out, so that's cool, but man, it's just such a like weird like one-off type thing. We just like let the inspiration kind of take us. And we did
it's
the whole
such a
thing
strong
in like
song.
An hour and a half, 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, just like start to finish, like writing and recording. We just sat there sitting at the.
That's the beauty.
There writing it while we played it, or just like coming up with ideas, and like it was super cheesy, but it was fun.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I just thought I loved it. Did you play like guitar on that, or how did you get that sound?
Keyboard.
All keyboard.
I think. Wait, what is on that song? No, it's all keyboard.
Yeah. You're just using like the little Those are so cool. Yeah, I love that song.
That's all like, you know, just MIDI, man. I just sat down and just threw a bunch of stuff together.
Yeah. Well, man, hey, I appreciate you you coming on today.
Oh, yeah, man.
And once you have something else to promote, I want you to come back.
Yeah, dude. I look forward to hearing more of the show. It's cool.
Yeah, me too. I don't know when it's going to go up, but we'll have you back on soon.
Excited.
Yeah. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, dude.